by Mr. Scott Lee. Scott, thank you in advance for coming in to share your Saturday morning with us and for carrying the life-saving message of Alcoholics Anonymous. So fellow meditators, at this time, help me give a warm welcome to Scott. Please take it away.
Thank you, Ali. Scott Lee, alcoholic. Hi, you guys. It will help me as many of you can have your camera on as you can. Talking to the still things is not as easy for me as talking to the people, if you can. I'd like to open anything I do with a quotation from Lois Wilson, who was asked one time what she did in a moment of silence. She said, I invite God to the meeting. So just in case you haven't done that, in a moment, I'm going to ask you to do that. Now, there may be somebody here that doesn't have a God. You got here like I did, afraid there might be one. If that's your situation, borrow mine. I recommend him very highly. He's got a great sense of humor. And I think you'll like him a lot. And he's big enough, I can loan him. I got permission to loan him. So you can address him as a God of Scott's limited understanding, because that is the truth. So let's take a moment, each our own way. Just invite God to the meeting. I'll meet you back here. Amen. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. It's just a privilege. I got a bad case of alcoholism, and I love the chance to treat it. I just love us. I should tell you also, I have a central nervous system disorder known as essential tremors. My hands shake, and I have an involuntary negative head shake. Every once in a while, my head will do this, and I don't even know what's happening. So it's going to look like I disagree with what I'm saying. I don't. Now, I may later because I'm still learning. But if I say it today, don't trust the head shakes, okay? I actually mean it. It was interesting to start with meditation. I start every morning with it. It was pointed out to me that meditation is not extra credit. It's right there in the step. And the one I use is one we call the love meditation. And the image is that love is a column. It's the size of the top of my head. Comes down out of heaven, down to the top of my head, up my nose, my mouth, and my chest. And I send it to all kinds of places. I sent it to all of you this morning before first light. I send it to all the men I sponsor, all my family members, some people I know having a difficult time. For several years, I've been sending it to my husband-in-law. Now I see some puzzled faces. You're not from the South. My husband-in-law is the guy that's currently married to my first wife. Just for those of you who are not familiar with the term. And he's having a hard time right now, and I'm not mad. And I send love just all over the place. And it has just been a great joy. And I do that each morning. I've got so many things I want to talk about. Can I see those of you with your camera on? If anybody's somewhere less than a year, would just raise your hand so I can know that you're here. Anybody? 1, 2. Okay, great. Thank you. You're the ones I came to talk to because I feast on newcomers. I just love you so much. I'm so glad you're here. And I want to cover, for those of you who read the big book regularly, you know that they sneak into your bed right at night and they make changes into it. And we're going to talk about some of the changes they made recently. I swear it wasn't here. I would have seen it. Page 13, for those of you who brought your books to class, the steps first appear on page 13 in narrative form, but they're all here. But down toward the bottom of the page, it says, my friend promised when these things were done, I would enter upon a new relationship with my creator. New, interesting, new. If you'd asked me a year ago if I had a relationship with God before I got here, I would have told you no. And I was sure I didn't. And one of the guys I sponsored pointed this out to me. New relationship implies that I had one before I got here. And as I look at it, it's the truth. The relationship is known as 911. See if you recognize any of these pre-AA prayers. God, please help me pass this test I didn't study for. Please don't let her be pregnant. I'm told I can be prayed in the first person, ladies. Please don't let those flashing red and blue lights be for me, is another very popular pre-AA prayer. My favorite, with the one I've always thought is the big one, usually happens somewhere around 2 o'clock in the morning, where I'm in the bathroom kneeling on the prayer rug, which is what I always call a little half-moon carpet, or they put around the commode. I'm kneeling on a prayer rug, and we're at the part of the proceeding where there's nothing coming out but noise and occasional tear. Remember that part? And I would pray the pre-AA prayer, see if you recognize it. God, get me out of this, and I'll never do it again. Which is alcoholic for amen, as I'm sure you know. And then I brush my teeth and go, I had teeth then. I'd brush my teeth and go to bed. And when I look at it today, what I see is in those days when I prayed, I was trying to make him my God. I've been taught here is how to make me his man. You see, I had it upside down. I had it absolutely backwards. Actually, I had quite a few things backwards. That's just what I'm going to start with. So, page 28, I'm a member of the page 112 group. The first three words on page 112 are read this book. And that's what we do. I have the privilege of leading quite a few men's retreats. We always open with a page 112 meeting. The way it's done in that setting is we ask you to give us the page number first, read us a paragraph or less from anywhere in the book, and tell us why you read it. You got 3 minutes. We expect you to shut down through, and we flip all over the book. It's a fabulous way to do a discussion meeting. If you haven't tried that at your home group, next time you're a discussion leader, take that one and see what you get. It's perfect because the old timers get to show off what they know, and the newcomers get excited about the book. It's a double win. But page 28 says in the center of the page, if what we've learned and felt and seen means anything at all, means that all of us, whatever our race, creed, or color, are the children of a living creator with whom we may form a relationship upon simple and understandable terms, as soon as we're willing and honest enough to try. So I can understand the relationship with God. The relationship is he's in charge, and I'm good with that. I always want to be God's coach. Big fella, take a knee. I got some instructions for you. And that's how I was when I got here. Now in the morning, I don't give God his instruction. I signed in, I asked for mine. I volunteered for service. I haven't surrendered in a long time. I volunteered this morning. It's very different from surrender. I think I'm going to skip around in the book a little bit. Page 46 has two of the most important concepts in the book for me. Page 46, paragraph begins near the bottom of the page with the word much. If you're looking at your book, count up 3 lines above that. It says it was impossible for any of us to fully define or comprehend that power which is God. The book says very clearly, I can't understand God, so quit trying. My sponsor says the teacup of my mind cannot contain the ocean of God. So when we talk about God, you understand, we're not saying you're going to understand God. We're saying you don't have to believe what anybody else ever told you. My God, we don't care how qualified they claim to be. We don't care. You and God can work that out together. I've been playing with this concept, and I think I like it, but it's too new for me to be completely invested in it. And it's the difference between religion and spirituality. I was told a long time ago, religious for people that don't want to go to hell. Spirituality for people who've been to hell, don't want to go back. There may be some truth in that. I know it's clever. Here's what I see. Religion says, believe this. Spirituality says, we did this, and we think if you do it, you'll like the results. It's the difference between believe and do. Consequently, they can work well together without being in conflict. Now, sometimes they are, but they don't have to be. But so this says, I'm not going to understand God. The other concept that's on this page, I think, is one of the two most important pieces of information I have ever gotten. 5 lines from the bottom. We found that God does not make too hard terms of those who seek him. Let me translate that into Tennessee English for you. God ain't mad at us. Man, that was some good news. That's not what I've been told. Page 62. It says, driven by 100 forms of fears, driven, not mildly bothered on rare occasion, driven, 100 forms of fear. Fear is the deep concern I may not get my will at some time in the future. Self-delusion, I believe my own BS. I've only got 2 brain cells left. One of them creates BS, the other one buys it. Self-seeking, I'm not thinking about you at all. I'm full throttle after my will. Self-pity, poor me, I did get my will at some time in the past. Poor me, I'm not getting my will right now. Pour me a drink. My sponsor at this point said, how would you like some good news? I said, well, I would like some good news. He said, how would you like the best news you're ever going to get in your entire life? I said, I'm open, hit me with it. And he said, so our troubles we think are basically our own making. And I said, was that it? He said, that was it. I said, I don't get it. He said, if it really is the cops, the courts, the judges, the Russians, the Chinese, your future ex-wife, her mother, and their lawyer, if those people really are the problem, you lose. The good news is that you are the problem. If you'll bring some willingness to this party, we can work on that. It did not seem like it at the time. Today, I will tell you, it's one of the two most important and best pieces of news I ever got. I just did the other one. God's not mad. The good news is that I'm the problem. Because the moment I become the problem, there's hope. If they have to move a quarter of an inch, I'm cooked. The good news is that I'm the problem. It's so important, it tells me on several pages. It says the same thing on page 53. Paragraph begins in the middle of the page. When we became alcoholics, crushed by a self-imposed crisis. Self-imposed crisis. Page 133 says the same thing. Top of the page, we are sure God wants us to be happy, joyous, and free. We cannot subscribe to the belief that this life is a veil. I had to look up veil, it means valley, veil of tears, though it was once just that for many of us. But it's clear that we made our own misery. God didn't do it. 3 times they had to tell me I'm the problem. And if I could, it was pointed out to me many years ago that willingness, bottom, and surrender all have the very same definition. And it is when someone who's qualified, my sponsor, for example, asks me to do a thing I don't like, that I don't want to do, that I don't think will help, that I don't think matters, and I do it anyway. Is that do it anyway that defines bottom, surrender, and willingness. If I can't bring do it anyway to this party, I have not surrendered. I am not at bottom. And I have no willingness. Willingness is not about words, it is about action. And it's contrary action. Action I would not have chosen on my own. I needed to be shown. I needed a sobriety coach. And that's what a sponsor, I didn't want to get a sponsor while I was new because I didn't want anybody to tell me what to do. It was pointed out to me that people telling you what to do all the time. Landlady telling you get out, cop telling you get in. Maybe if you get a sponsor to do what he says, nobody else can tell you. It's been my experience for 40 years. I picked up my 40-year chip a week or so ago. And that's a long time for a guy that only agreed to 28 days. So page, I was in one of the gated communities. We're going to go to page 455. I was in one of the gated communities. For those that recognize the term, that's a state prison. And we were doing a page 112 meeting in there. And here's something I've been hearing in meetings all over the place. It's in the book, last line 455. There's a saying that alcoholics either get sobered up, locked up, or covered up. I've been hearing it forever. It's in the book. It's in the book. Toward the bottom of 456, about 5 lines from the bottom, one of the guys read this. AA has accomplished so many things in my life today. It's given me my sanity and all-around sense of balance. Now, willing to listen and take suggestions I found. Process of discovering who I really am begins with knowing who I really don't want to be. It's what the first 9 steps are about finding out who I don't want to be. Don Pritz, if you don't know that name, do yourself a favor. Don't go to bed tonight without getting a couple of Don's talks. But he said the alcoholic is like an electromagnet that's been dragged through the junkyard of life. We get all this rusty, jagged, nasty, sharp stuff stuck all over us. Through the process of the 12 steps, we take all that power control and turn that power down, and those things fall away. And this beautiful person you've always really been emerges. We're not here to change you into anything. You're already everything you ever needed to be. You just didn't know it. I got here convinced I was not good enough. I've been an actor all my life, pretending to be the guy I think you want me to be. It takes a tremendous amount of energy to do that. I think alcohol and eventually drugs saved me. I don't know how much longer I could have done it without some sort of chemical assistance. I don't know how much longer I could have done it. I think that stuff kept me alive until I could get to you. As it turns out, the God of forever, this is the God who invented smallmouth bass, vanilla ice cream, and sex. Good job. Thank you. That guy was not having a bad day when he created any of us. We were just wrong about that. And it was the single most important fact in my life. The core of my being said, Scott's not good enough. And it made all my choices, made all my decisions. And I come to you and find out I was wrong about that one. Wow. I wonder what else I'm wrong about. I was wrong about so many things. When I asked the first man to sponsor me, I thought I was saying I'm a dead weight. Would you drag me? You're going to hate this. There's nothing in it for you. I'm going to take you away from your job, take you off the tennis courts and the golf course, away from mowing your grass and doing your chores and playing with your wife and kids and watching your team on TV. And there's nothing in it for you. And I've given up some of my manhood because real men don't ask for help. And everything I told you is just exactly, perfectly, 100% wrong, all of it. But that's what I thought. So that's how it was. One of the things, I think my recovery began not the first day I didn't drink, not when I became convinced I had to do what you said. It began when I was able to release my grip on the things I knew for sure. I came to you on 28 June 1984. And one of my problems was what I didn't know. And that was a definite problem. My biggest problem was the things I knew for sure that were actually wrong. It was when I was able to begin to release my grip on the things I knew for sure that there began to be hope for a guy like me. I want to cover a couple of more things in the book. Actually, I don't know much else. I think I'm gonna talk. We got a couple of new people. Roman numeral XXII, Roman numeral 22. If you get to the doctor's opinion and just turn one more page toward the front of the book, you'll find it. Beginning of the doctor's opinion, flip one toward the front of the book. And I think it contains the single most important phrase in the entire book. Third paragraph. The basic principles of the AA program, it appears, hold good with individuals with their lifestyles, just as the program has brought recovery to those of many different nationalities. So we hear the term program all the time. Here comes a piece of information about the 12 steps that summarize the program. What that says is the steps I see on the wall are a summary. That's the Cliff Notes. I've been a Cliff Notes kind of guy all my life. My sponsor said, if that was the whole program, we'd have a pamphlet instead of a book. And a guy as sick as Scott needs the whole thing. So that's important information. Now I know the program is the 12 steps expanded. That's good information. So at the bottom of the page, it says, in spite of the increase of the size and span of this fellowship, its core remains simple and personal each day somewhere in the world. Recovery begins when one alcoholic talks to another alcoholic, sharing experience, sharing help. That's what we're doing now. And there are two fellowships mentioned in the book. The fellowship of AA that you're in, when you say you're in it, if you say you're an alcoholic, you're an AA, you're in, and that's the end of the discussion. You're in. There's a second fellowship that's mentioned on page 164 and has different entrance requirements. 164 toward the bottom of the page. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to Him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Get free of what you find. You join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit. The fellowship of the Spirit has different entrance requirements than the fellowship of AA. They look to me like the steps in narrative form. That's what they look like to me. Here's my experience. In 40 years, I've only seen two people I know for sure that actually did the 12 steps that went back out. Two. I sponsored them both. I know they did the work. One of them married his new higher power. We used to say, I wonder how she likes him now, because she didn't like how much time he spent with us, so he cut it way back. That information was in the legal notices in the newspaper not too long after that when she divorced him. He's back now carrying a 13-year chip. The other one is a hotel manager. He started running a dude ranch in Arizona, 40 miles from the nearest meeting, and quit going. 2 years later, he drank for 2 weeks. Today, he's carrying a 20-year chip. Those are the only two people I know for sure did what we do and went back out. This is what I want to say. What they did was they allowed their, because I've seen a lot of members of the Fellowship of AA go back out. I've never seen a member of the Fellowship of the Spirit go back out. They allowed their membership in the Fellowship of the Spirit to lapse. And when that membership lapsed, they relapsed. When they re-upped their membership in the Fellowship of the Spirit, they got healthy again, and they're doing just fine. The magic is in the Fellowship of the Spirit. Page 84, reference step 10. I'm going to talk for me about the difference between steps 10 and 11. Step 10 is about being present in my own life, moment by moment. The book uses the word continue 4 times in the first paragraph describing step 10. The evening inventory is step 11. But it says, this thought brings us to step 10, which suggests we continue to take personal inventory and continue to set right any mistakes as we go along. So it's about being present in my own life, moment by moment. And I think there's a slogan that applies to that. It's easy does it. If I run Mach 2 with my hair on fire, I don't notice when I screw up. If I go slower, I make fewer mistakes, but I also tend to be aware of them. And it says, we have entered the world of the Spirit. Interesting. We just talked about the fellowship of the Spirit. So how to enter the world of the Spirit? Well, this is a reading on step 10. The assumption would be that you've done the first 9. While being coached by sponsors already done them. That's where the magic is. I was told to read the black part and to read all the black part. On page 77, something I hear most misquoted frequently, third line on 77, our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be a maximum service to God and the people about us. So clearly, our real purpose is not to be a maximum service to God and people about me. I have no idea how to do that. I wouldn't know which way to turn out of the driveway to go to do that. To fit myself to be maximum, I know how to do that. You taught me. Do the 12 steps. Sponsor some guys. Be sponsored. Go to some meetings. Taking meetings into jails and treatment centers. Open my day in prayer and meditation. Close my day with prayer and meditation. Let people in traffic. Say please and thank you. Clean up my language. I know how to fit myself to be a maximum service. The master craftsman reaches for the best tool laying the closest to his hand. I don't need to worry about doing this work. I need to worry about being the best tool I can be and residing as close to his hand as I can. And then he'll pick me up and use me as he chooses. Similar situation on page 85. Back again to the reading on reading on step 10. It's easy to let up in the spiritual program of action, rest on our Lord, but it's easy to let up must require effort to not let up. The youngest in recovery of the men I sponsor is carrying a 4-year chip. And he asked me not too long ago, he said, I know what you talk about when you're around guys like me with not a lot of time. What do you talk about with other guys with 30 and 40 years? What do you talk about? I said, we're talking about 2 things. One is how can we best carry this message to the next newcomer? And how can we have newcomer ears? How can I remain green and growing? It's so critically important that I don't think I have this by the tail. The tail is covered with Vaseline. Anytime I think I got it by the tail, I'm going to slide off any second. But continuing, it says we're headed for trouble if we do for alcoholism subtle foe. We're not cured of alcoholism. We really have a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. A reprieve is a stay of execution or delay of punishment. And it's not contingent on my spiritual condition. I have no idea what my spiritual condition is, and I'm not qualified to judge it. It's like my meditation. I'm not qualified to judge it. It's not something I do, it's something I receive. It's contingent on the maintenance of my spiritual condition. And I'm a good judge. I better be. That's what the evening half of step 11 is about. What kind of maintenance did I do on my spiritual condition? I maintenance my spiritual condition in the same sense I maintenance my vehicle. I rotate the tires. I got the right pressure on them. I change the oil on time. I vacuum it out. I wash it. I maintenance my spiritual condition. Same answers on 77. Sponsoring, being sponsored, taking guys through the steps, going to meetings, letting people in traffic, saying please and thank you, taking meetings in a place. I do the things that are necessary to maintenance my spiritual condition. I don't need to worry about what the spiritual condition is. I'm not responsible for that. It's not something I do. It's something I receive. Those are such critically important pieces for me. Page 8. I'm just kind of flipping around here. I didn't really come with a plan. Actually, I did plan to do that thing on page 13, and I just thought I will see where it goes after that. I'm real fond of this book. Page 8, about 2/3 of the way down the page, I was soon to be catapulted in what I like to call the 4th dimension of existence. Einstein said the dimensions were width, depth, height, and time, with time being the 4th dimension. And the time I get catapulted into is right here, right now. A place the alcoholic rarely visits. Right here, between the claps, right here, right now. I'm off in the past, reliving victories, some of which may have actually happened. Or I'm off in the future trying to figure it all out. What if this and what if the other, plan A and plan B, what if they find out? And I'm rarely right here, right now. There's one who has all power, that one is God. They find him now. That was when I find God, it's where. My God is the God of right here, right now. That's where I need to be. But Bill goes on to describe the 4th dimension in his own terms. In the next sentence, he says, I was to know happiness, peace, and usefulness. The way of life is incredibly wonderful as time passes. Happiness, I get that. Aristotle said that's what everybody wants, is to be happy. And he was right. That's what I want for myself. I want to be happy. Peace. Yes, please. I want that too. I want to be calm and peaceful in here. I want that for myself too. Usefulness. What is usefulness doing on the list? That's for them. No, it isn't. It's for me. There's no direct route that I can find into happiness and peace. They are side effects of being useful, of trying to do something for you. The usefulness is for me. It's the only way to find it. Page 84. I'm going back to 84. Third line. This is one of the 9-step promises. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. What are uselessness and self-pity do? How did they get together? The answer for me, I was diagnosed with cancer in my throat in June of 20. They took my teeth because they'd gone to do so much radiation. They killed my jawbone. It's still here, but it is dead. You can't have live teeth in a dead jawbone. They did radiation and chemo, which is rough. And through that process, what I learned was what this thing says. The path out of self-pity is through being useful. My sponsor said I'm the poster boy for how to get through cancer because I was able to do it. There were 2 pieces. One, stay in today. I don't get to say, oh, this has been going on so long. That's long pain from the past. Oh, I don't know how much longer I can do this. Long pain from the future. I got to use the word today frequently. So how do I stand today? How do I not go to the past and future? And the answer is I have 3 vocabularies: speaking, praying, and thinking. And I have to use the word today frequently in all 3 of those. And I do. I've got it posted around. You may be able to see it here over my shoulder. I've got one on my office door. There's one on the other side of my desk. There's one on the wall directly across from the commode at eye level. And I say that word out loud a lot. 3 vocabularies: speaking, praying, and thinking. And I need to use the word today frequently in all 3 of those. The question isn't, what am I doing about my finances? It's the wrong question, bad question. The question is, what am I doing about my finances today? Can you feel the difference in those questions? What am I doing about my relationship? No. What do you do about it today? Feel the difference in the power in those questions. I got to quit trying to fix the rest of my life. It's not my job. I would like to read you the first paragraph in the big book chapter, Figuring It All Out. But we don't have that chapter. So I'm not going to be able to do that. And what that tells me is it's not my job to figure it all out. And I need to quit. Just quit and get back in here into today. So one of the pieces to get through a difficult time is to stay in today. The other piece is to look for ways to be of service. I got into depression. I think depression and worry and anxiety and fear are all different levels of the same mistake, which is trading a perfectly good right this moment for a bad deal at some time in the future that may not happen. That's a terrible trade if you think about it. And so the way I did it was I pick up the phone and call you and say, how are you? What's going on in your life? How can I make it better? How can I be of service? The incoming tide lifts all boats. And I want that tide to be made of love and service. One of my standing assignments is to be of service. Part of my morning prayer, and I wish I had time to cover it all, and I don't. Part of my morning prayer. So I ask God to bless me. I don't miss any opportunities to be of service or spread love and joy, which is really the same thing. Because that's how it happens for me. Because if I'm sloshing love and joy all over you, it splatters onto me every time. And Allison asked me earlier, I carry these with me, and I live in Metro Nashville, and we've had 30,000 people a year moving to my city for over a decade. We got traffic jams now. We never had them before. And it used to be when the traffic came to a stop in downtown Nashville on the interstate, I'd sit there and fume. Now what I do is I reach in my vest pocket and I pull out a clown nose and put it on. And I reach a little deeper and I pull out a little jar of bubbles and I start blowing bubbles out the window. I'm not kidding you. And what happens is the other drivers see the bubbles and they look and they see the clown nose and they start laughing. And laughter is contagious. And when they laugh, I laugh. We're still stuck in traffic, but I've turned it into a party. If it's like a wreck and we're stuck for a long time, I put it in park and get out and pop the back of my car. I'm carrying about 50 of these and about 100 of the bubbles, and I start passing them out. Or I'm walking to the grocery store. I had this on the other day, and there's a lady there with a couple of kids, and they're good kids. I know they're good kids. They're just having a hard day. Well, I know what to do. Put on that clown nose and blow a few. Kids will lock onto bubbles like a good bird dog coming on point. The screaming stops instantly. And the kid will say bubbles, and you will be amazed if you do this, how small a child will say bubbles. It's got to be one of their first 100 words. I could not believe how small some of them say bubbles. And I go up to the mom and I say, I'm a stranger. I don't want to give your children anything, but can the kids have the bubbles and clown nose? Once in a great while, they say, no, I got to know a few months ago. I just say thank you and walk away. Usually they say yes. All right, what happened? What happened? What happened was those kids had their day lifted. Who else? Mom. Who else? Everyone that saw it. Who else? Me. Me. I cannot slosh love and joy on you and have it not splatter onto me. It isn't possible. Cannot be done. It's one of the great spiritual truths. There's another one. You can't give without receiving, and you can't receive without giving. It can't be done. It's spiritual law. Page 15 in Bill's story. My wife and I abandoned ourselves with enthusiasm. The idea of helping other alcoholics to solution their problems. It was fortunate. No business associates remained skeptical for a year and a half, during which I found little work. For those of you who are new, do not be upset with your family if they can't get excited about your 6-month-ship. Okay? Let us celebrate with you. We understand they don't. And the longer it takes them to buy into your recovery, probably the healthier they are. The best thing you can say, if they say anything at all, is you have every right to be cynical. But stay with me. I think we got it this time. Anything you do to try to sell it to them is going to make it worse. I've got a lot of experience in this. I'm going to continue reading. I was not too well at the time. I was plagued. Listen to the power in the words plagued. When's the last time you heard the word plague used as a verb? Plagued by waves of the two great killers of alcoholics, self-pity and resentment. They'll both kill you. This sometimes nearly drove me back to the ring. I soon found that when all other measures failed, work with another alcoholic would save the day. Many times I go to my hospital in despair. I look up the word despair. It means without hope. You got to go down through depression to get to despair. It lays under depression. On talking to a man there, I'd be amazed to lift up, sit on my feet. It's a design for living. It works and rough going. Powerful stuff. Powerful, powerful, powerful stuff. I'll tell you a story. I was sitting by a stream some time ago, just sitting. I looked across the stream and I saw a cloud. And it occurred to me, every drop of rain in that cloud falls in God's will perfectly. I know they are. And I look, there's a tree over there. Well, so is the tree, and so is that bird in the tree, and so is a little fish in the stream. Why can't I? It was hard on me. Why can't I? And I got my answer. And the answer is, I am. I'm convinced it is not my job to be perfect. If you think you're supposed to be perfect, I wish you a lot of luck. It's going to be a tough trip. But if it's not my job to be perfect, what's my job? My job is to make mistakes. They sent the right guy. Oh boy. And all my life I've been told we learn from our mistakes. Guys like me do not learn from our mistakes. We learn from living with the results of our mistakes. An enabler is someone who takes away the results, thereby blocking the learning process. So here is the learning process as I understand it today. First, a definition: a mistake is an invitation to a lesson. The evidence is, if I learned the lesson, would not have made the mistake. And I don't have the power to make mistakes so ugly that this loving, laughing God I talked about before can't turn it into wonderful, not fix. That's who I am. That's who he is. A mistake is just a lesson dressed in its work clothes. That's all it is. I'm convinced it's God's will for me to screw up. It's why I'm here. It's my mission. That's why I was put in this skin, so I can make these mistakes. So here's the learning process as I understand today. 1, make a mistake. 2, be notified. I don't always know when I make a mistake. 3, own the mistake. Yeah, that was me. And if I only know 80%, I have to tell them the other 20. I must own the mistake. 4, consult a spiritual advisor about how to 5, make the amend. Usually, not always, there's an amend to be made. 6, embrace the lesson. The lesson comes with the making of the amend, not with the making of the mistake. 6, embrace the lesson. 7, share the lesson. That's what really sets it for me. 8, when I share the lesson, I have to tell you I made the mistake. If I just share the lesson, I'm preaching it. Nobody wants to hear it. When I stand as a sinner beside a sinner, he can hear me. 9, make the next mistake. It's my assignment. You're going to hear the word progress a lot. Let me give you a definition. Progress is making the same old mistake a little less often, or making a new and finer quality of mistake. Anything beyond that's perfection, and that's not the assignment. That's not why I'm here. It's just not. This picture that you see over my shoulder was taken when I was about 4 years old, and the original. It's a wallet size. And the last time I was between wives, I'm currently between wives again. I hope I'm between wives. I may be completely out of the white business. I don't know. I'm willing to take applications, and I have some bait in the water. But the last time I was between wives, I took that thing out of my wallet and had it blown up like you see. I had no idea why I did that, and put it on the wall at the foot of my bed. And it's the last thing I saw every night and the first thing I saw every morning. And I had no idea why I did that. One time I was looking at that and I thought, who would he have become? Now, let me clarify. I have been through the forgiveness process in the 4-step. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please find out. Through the forgiveness process in the 4-step, I'll give you a clue. It wasn't about writing. If all you do is write step 4, you have missed it completely. Absolutely missed it. But through that process, I have been emotionally disconnected from all the things that you did in the past. Through making my amends, I've become emotionally disconnected from all of my mistakes in the past. And that's what freedom looks like. So, but my question was, who would he have become? Who would he have become? If none of that stuff had happened to him, if he'd received all the loving guidance he deserved as a child of God, who would he have become? And I got my answer. And the answer is, it's my assignment. It's my job to become the man he would have become. It's my job. And I serve the God of love, who's stronger than all that stuff that happened. All of it. The only question is, am I willing to do the work? So far, I have been. So far, I have been. And I have become the man he would have become. So I have my own permission to make mistakes. I expect to make mistakes. It's my assignment. It's why I'm here. That's half the freedom. The other half is you have my permission to make mistakes. That includes all of them I sponsor. It includes Vladimir Putin. It includes some politicians in my country. I think have got their heads up and locked. It includes all the guys I sponsor, all my family members. It includes those of you who got your driver's licenses out of cereal boxes. Everybody has my permission to make mistakes. Because if they don't, if I'm going to be upset by what you do, I'm a prisoner of your behavior. I don't want to be a prisoner anymore. So I have my own permission to make mistakes, and you have my permission to make mistakes. And those two things free me to be right here, right now, at peace, walking in the sunlight of the Spirit, still evolving into the man he would have become, because he was growing then, and I'm growing now. And I don't think I've got it all. I know I don't. I had a major breakthrough spiritually less than a week ago. I've been doing this a long time. It's one of the most exciting things. There is no last lesson. This is about being right here, right now. And I don't force the lessons. They come when they come. We invited God. I'm pretty sure he showed up today. I posted my contact information in the chat. If you got any questions or want to contact me, feel free. Don't worry about when you call. I turn the phone off when I go to bed. If they arrest you, don't call me for bail. I'm probably asleep and I ain't answering. But we invited God, and I'm pretty sure he came. If you will, let's all just take a quick moment and just thank him for coming. Amen. Allison, that's all I got, darling.
Thank you so much, Scott. That was absolutely